The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and intention. For thousands of years, the Jedi had studied its mysteries, learning to sense the ebb and flow of life itself. But what happens when something arrives that exists completely outside that ancient connection, a power so alien that even the Force cannot predict it? The twin suns of Geonosis burned overhead, casting crimson light across the execution arena's sand. Obi-Wan Kenobi struggled against the chains, binding him to the stone pillar, watching helplessly as the Nexu circled Padme Amidala with predatory patience. Beside him, Anakin Skywalker fought his own restraints, frustration and fear bleeding through their training bond. The separatist crowds roared their approval from the arena seats, eager for the spectacle of Jedi blood. Count Dooku stood in the archway of the private viewing box, satisfaction evident in his refined posture. Everything was proceeding as his master had foreseen. The Jedi would die, the Republic would be forced to act, and the Clone Wars would begin exactly as planned. Then reality tore open. It wasn't a hyperspace jump, no ship materialized, no engines screamed their arrival. Instead, the air itself seemed to fracture, and for a single impossible moment, everyone in the arena felt something they couldn't name. The Force rippled with confusion, as if sensing something it had never encountered before. Battle droids froze mid-step. Jedi across the arena turned toward the disturbance, hands instinctively reaching for lightsabers that had been confiscated. Goku materialized 3 meters above the arena floor in a crouch, orange gi fluttering as he dropped to the sand. He blinked, looking around in obvious confusion. This definitely wasn't King Kai's planet. The Scion stood slowly, black hair wild and untamed, taking in the strange scene with wide-eyed curiosity. Red sand, twin suns, creatures he'd never seen before, and 3 people chained to pillars, surrounded by what looked like robots? Instant transmission brought me here? Goku muttered in his native language, words incomprehensible to everyone present. He scratched his head, then noticed the massive cat-like creature stalking toward the woman in the white outfit. His expression shifted instantly, confusion replaced by the universal recognition of someone in danger. The Nexu pounced. Goku moved. To Obi-Wan's Force-enhanced perception, the orange-clad stranger simply vanished and reappeared between Padme and the Predator. One hand caught the Nexu's jaw mid-leap, stopping half a ton of muscle and claw with such casual strength that the creature's momentum died completely. The Nexu's roar of fury turned to a whimper of confusion. "Easy there, big guy," Goku said gently, setting the beast down and patting its head. The Nexu, bred for aggression and trained to kill, sat on its haunches like a confused puppy. "You're just doing what they trained you to do, aren't you?" The arena had gone absolutely silent. Goku looked up at Padme, still chained to her pillar, and offered his trademark grin, pure, uncomplicated friendliness that transcended language. He raised 2 fingers to his forehead in what she would later learn was his signature gesture, then disappeared and reappeared beside her pillar. The chains shattered with a casual flex of his hands, metal links falling away like paper. "Hang on," he said in words she couldn't understand, tone making his meaning clear. "I'll get you all down." That's when the battle droids opened fire. Blue plasma bolts filled the air, dozens of B-1 battle droids responding to the threat with mechanical precision. Goku's head snapped toward them, eyes widening at the strange energy weapons. He'd never seen blasters before, had no idea what they were, but his combat instincts, honed through decades of fighting the universe's deadliest warriors, didn't need explanation. His body moved before conscious thought, weaving between plasma bolts with fluid grace that made the droid's targeting systems spark with error messages. Each movement was minimal, efficient, the economy of motion that came from martial arts mastery. A bolt passed millimeters from his cheek, another through where his torso had been a microsecond before. Then Goku's expression shifted to something the Jedi recognized instantly. Even if they couldn't sense it through the Force, the look of a warrior assessing opponents and finding them wanting. He stopped dodging. His right hand came up, and suddenly he was swatting blaster bolts aside like annoying insects. Each impact of plasma against his palm created small flashes of light, the energy dissipating against skin that had withstood planetary explosions. The droids increased their rate of fire. Goku yawned, deflecting an entire salvo with the back of his hand. "These things sting a little," he observed cheerfully to himself, "but they're not too bad." In the viewing box, Count Dooku leaned forward, dark eyes sharp with sudden interest. This was no Jedi. The Force told him nothing about the stranger, an absolute void where there should be some presence, some signature. Yet the physical power on display was extraordinary. "Destroy him," Dooku commanded into his comlink. "All units, focus fire." Goku had freed Anakin and Obi-Wan by the time the real assault began. 200 battle droids converged on the arena floor, their combined firepower turning the air into a lattice of blue death. The stranger in the orange gi stood in the center, still grinning, still radiating an almost childlike enthusiasm. Then he cupped his hands at his side. Blue-white energy gathered between his palms, crackling with power that made the air shimmer. It wasn't the Force every Jedi present could feel the difference. This was something else entirely, something that existed in pure defiance of everything they knew about how energy and life interacted. Ka, mi, ha, mi. The light grew brighter, drowning out even Geonosis's twin suns. Ha! The Kamehameha wave erupted across the arena floor, a tsunami of azure energy that vaporized everything in its path. Battle droids simply ceased to exist, their molecular bonds overwhelmed by the sheer concentrated power. The beam carved a trench, 15 meters wide through the sand, melted stone, and shattered the far wall of the arena before finally dissipating. Silence fell again, broken only by the sound of molten metal cooling and sand crystallizing into glass. Goku lowered his hands, looking genuinely pleased with himself. Then he turned to the 3 people he'd just saved and gave them a thumbs up, his smile as bright and uncomplicated as sunlight. Obi-Wan Kenobi, for perhaps the first time in his life, found himself completely at a loss for words. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, smash that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. High above, in the arena's command center, Count Dooku made a decision. This variable needed to be eliminated or turned to the Separatist cause. Either way, the strange warrior's intervention had just made the Clone Wars infinitely more complicated. And in the shadows of the Senate building on Coruscant, trillions of kilometers away, Darth Sidious felt a tremor through the Force, not a presence, but an absence. Something had entered his carefully orchestrated war, something his foresight had never shown him. The Sith Lord's eyes narrowed. This required investigation. On Geonosis, Goku was already wondering if anyone here knew how to get him home, and maybe if they had food. He was getting pretty hungry. The sound of repulsor lift engines filled the arena as Republic gunships descended through the crimson sky, their door gunners already laying down, suppressing fire against the remaining Separatist forces. Clone troopers in white armor poured onto the sand, their DC-15 blasters tracking targets with practiced efficiency. The Battle of Geonosis had officially begun, and what should have been a straightforward execution had transformed into chaos. Goku watched the armored soldiers with fascination, head tilting as he observed their identical faces through their helmets' T-shaped visors. They moved in perfect synchronization, covering each other with tactical precision that reminded him of the Ginyu Force, minus the ridiculous poses. One of the gunships landed nearby, and a clone commander gestured urgently toward Obi-Wan and the others. "General Kenobi, We need to evacuate immediately. Separatist reinforcements are converging on this position. Obi-Wan nodded, then glanced at the orange-clad stranger who had just casually obliterated 200 battle droids with a single energy blast. The man was examining a destroyed droid's head with the curiosity of a child poking at an interesting rock. "What about him?" Anakin asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. The young Jedi had his lightsaber back now, the blue blade humming softly as he kept it ignited, not threatening, but ready. "Master, that energy he used, I've never felt anything like it." "It wasn't the Force, but it was incredibly powerful. I noticed," Obi-Wan replied dryly, along with the part where he caught a Nexu with one hand and shattered durasteel chains like they were made of flimsy. Padme stepped forward, still brushing sand from her tattered white outfit. Despite the near-death experience, her senator's composure had returned. "He saved our lives. We can't just leave him here." Goku looked up from the droid head at the sound of voices, clearly trying to make sense of the strange language. He'd picked up bits and pieces from the Supreme Kai and other cosmic beings over the years, but this was completely new. Still, the body language was universal. These people were preparing to leave, and they seemed to be discussing him. He stood and walked over, offering another one of those disarmingly genuine smiles. Up close, the Jedi could see he was shorter than average, compact but radiating an almost tangible sense of physical power. His gi was worn and patched in places, the orange fabric faded from use. This was clearly a warrior's outfit, functional rather than decorative. Goku pointed at himself. "Goku," he said clearly, then gestured to the destroyed droids and made an exaggerated fighting motion, complete with sound effects. "Pow! Boom!" He grinned wider, clearly proud of his improvised communication. Despite the chaos of battle erupting around them, Anakin couldn't help but laugh. "I think he's saying his name is Goku, and that he likes fighting." "How perceptive," Obi-Wan muttered, though even he found himself slightly charmed by the stranger's unguarded enthusiasm. It was so completely unlike the measured restraint of Jedi training that it was almost refreshing. Almost. A massive explosion rocked the arena as separatist spider droids breached the northern wall, their laser cannons tracking the Republic gunships. Battle was closing in fast, and they were running out of time. "We need to move," the clone commander insisted. "Now, sir." Obi-Wan made a command decision. "He comes with us. We'll sort out the details once we're not being shot at." He turned to Goku and gestured emphatically toward the gunship, then pointed at the approaching droids. The message was clear. "Come with us, or stay, and fight an army." Goku's eyes lit up at the sight of the spider droids. "Oh, more robots?" He cracked his knuckles eagerly, clearly considering staying just for the fun of it. Anakin recognized that look. He'd seen it in the mirror often enough. The thrill of combat, the desire to test one's abilities. Against the Jedi Code's teachings about fighting without passion, but honest in its way. He grabbed Goku's arm, surprised at how solid the muscle felt beneath the gi, like trying to grip a durasteel beam wrapped in cloth. "Come on," Anakin urged, pulling him toward the gunship. "Trust me, there'll be plenty more fighting where we're going." That apparently translated perfectly. Goku nodded enthusiastically and jogged toward the vessel, though his definition of jogging left the three humans struggling to keep pace. The Saiyan moved with effortless speed, feet barely seeming to touch the ground. They piled into the gunship as spider droid fire peppered the arena floor behind them. The pilot pulled up hard, engines screaming as they climbed above the battle. Through the open doors, Goku pressed his face against the viewport like a kid at an aquarium, watching with wide-eyed wonder as the massive scope of the battle revealed itself below. Thousands of droids, hundreds of Jedi wielding glowing swords, white-armored soldiers in perfectly organized formations, massive walking tanks exchanging fire, and in the distance, enormous wedge-shaped ships hanging in the sky like floating cities. "Wow," Goku breathed, pressing his hands against the viewport. "This is amazing." His tone needed no translation, pure, uncomplicated awe. Obi-Wan settled into one of the jump seats, wincing as his injuries made themselves known. The Force helped manage the pain, but getting mauled by an Acklay left marks. "Anakin, try to establish some basic communication. We need to know who or what he is." The young Jedi sat across from Goku, who had finally torn his attention from the battle to examine the interior of the gunship with the same fascinated curiosity. He tapped at the durasteel walls, clearly intrigued by materials he'd never encountered. When his finger punched straight through the supposedly reinforced hull plating, he looked genuinely apologetic. "Sorry," Goku said, pulling his finger back and trying to smooth the hole he'd accidentally created. "It didn't work," the clone pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. General Skywalker? What just happened to my hull?" "Nothing important," Anakin called back quickly, then turned to Goku with what he hoped was a calming gesture. The stranger reminded him of the Padawan younglings, in some ways enthusiastic, curious, and apparently capable of accidentally destroying things with casual touches. Anakin pointed at himself. "Anakin." Then at Obi-Wan. "Obi-Wan." At Padme. "Padme." He made introductory gestures, hoping to establish the concept. Goku caught on immediately, nodding eagerly. He pointed at each in turn, repeating the names with surprising accuracy despite the accent. "Anakin, Obi-Wan, Padme." Then he pointed at himself again. "Son Goku, but everyone just calls me Goku." "Progress," Obi-Wan observed. "Now we just need to figure out where he came from, how he arrived, and what that energy blast was." He paused, stroking his beard thoughtfully, and whether every human from his planet of origin can punch through warship-grade armor with their finger. Goku was back at the viewport, watching as a Jedi deflected blaster fire with their lightsaber. His expression transformed into pure delight, and he turned back to the group with an excited babble of incomprehensible words, gesturing wildly at the glowing blade and then making slashing motions. "I think," Anakin translated with a grin, "he really wants to know about lightsabers." The gunship banked hard, avoiding a stream of laser fire from a separatist gunship. In the distance, Republic command ships were beginning their assault runs on the droid foundries. The Battle of Geonosis was escalating into full-scale war, and somewhere in the chaos, a warrior from another universe was about to learn that his simple worldview of protect the good guys, fight the bad guys was about to collide with a conflict orchestrated by the most dangerous political manipulator in galactic history. But for now, Goku was just excited about the glowing swords. Count Dooku watched the Republic gunship escape on his tactical display, his elegant features schooled into thoughtful neutrality. The stranger had power raw, overwhelming physical power, unlike anything he'd encountered, and he existed outside the Force, invisible to the very thing that gave Dooku his greatest advantage. Lord Sidious would want to know about this immediately. The Republic assault ship Prominence hung in orbit above Geonosis like a predatory bird, its hangar bays swarming with activity as gunships delivered wounded Jedi and clone troopers from the surface. Medical droids rushed between landing craft, while officers coordinated the ongoing battle through holographic displays that painted the hangar in blue light. The organized chaos of war filled every corner of the massive vessel. Goku stepped off the gunship ramp and immediately stumbled, catching himself on the bulkhead. His equilibrium felt wrong, his inner ear insisting he should be falling, even though the artificial gravity held him firmly to the deck. He'd experienced different gravitational fields before, but this sensation was different manufactured rather than planetary. "Steady there," Anakin said, offering a hand that Goku waved off politely. The Saiyan found his footing after a moment, though his expression remained confused as he looked around the hangar bay. He could sense the battle still raging below through his key perception, thousands of energy signatures flickering like candle flames. But mixed throughout were brighter presences, those glowing sword wielders, each radiating something he couldn't quite identify. Not key, but similar. Life energy of a different flavor. A Jedi Master approached, robes still scorched from combat. Mace Windu's dark eyes assessed Goku with the measured calculation of a warrior who'd seen too many threats to dismiss any anomaly lightly. Behind him, a small green figure hobbled forward on a Geimer stick, ancient eyes sharp despite their apparent age. "Obi-Wan," Mace said without preamble. "Report. Who is this?" "That, Master Windu, is an excellent question." Obi-Wan gestured toward Goku, who was currently distracted by a passing astromech droid. The Saiyan crouched down to examine R4P-17 with fascination, making beeping sounds back at the droid in an apparent attempt at communication. He appeared in the execution arena through unknown means. No ship. No hyperspace signature. He saved our lives and destroyed 200 battle droids with a single energy blast. Yoda's ears perked forward. "Strong in the Force, is he?" "That's the strange part, Master. He isn't in the Force at all. We can't sense him, it's like he doesn't exist." Anakin frowned, clearly troubled by the sensation. "But his physical abilities are extraordinary. I've never seen anyone move that fast without Force enhancement." Goku stood up from his conversation with R4, apparently satisfied with whatever conclusion he'd reached about droids. He noticed the new arrivals and immediately sensed something different about the small green one. The energy around the ancient Jedi was denser, more refined than the others. Centuries of discipline and power. Without thinking, Goku pressed his hands together and bowed respectfully, the gesture he'd learned from Kami and later Master Roshi. In his experience, little green guys who radiated that much power deserved respect. Yoda's eyes widened fractionally, his ears lifting in surprise. The gesture held no Force signature, no intent he could read through the mystical energy, yet the meaning was clear: recognition of a fellow warrior, respect between martial artists. "Interesting this one is," Yoda murmured, returning the bow with his head. "Much to learn about him. We have." Mace remained less convinced. "We're in the middle of a battle. We don't have time for mysteries. If he's a separatist weapon..." Goku's head snapped toward the viewport as something caught his attention. Through the transparent steel, he could see dozens of strange wedge-shaped ships, smaller than the Republic vessels breaking orbit. Separatist frigates attempting to escape the blockade. Clone pilots in fighters were giving chase, their laser cannons flashing in the void. But what drew Goku's focus was the damaged Republic frigate listing badly, its engines dark and hull breached. He could sense the life energy aboard dozens of people, their signatures flickering with panic and fear. The ship's trajectory was wrong, falling toward Geonosis's atmosphere. Without power, they'd burn up on re-entry. He pointed urgently at the dying ship, then at himself, making pushing motions with his hands. His meaning was clear even without shared language. "The intervention," a clone officer called out from a tactical station. "She's lost main power, shields are down, life support is failing. Estimate 8 minutes until atmospheric breach." "We can't get a rescue team there in time," Mace said grimly. "And we need every available ship for the ground assault." Goku wasn't listening anymore. He was already walking toward the hangar bay's atmospheric shield, that shimmering blue barrier that kept vacuum at bay. Every instinct he'd honed over decades of fighting told him those people needed help now, and discussion was wasting time. "Wait," Obi-Wan called out. "You can't just..." Goku waved over his shoulder in casual farewell, then stepped through the atmospheric shield and into open space. The hangar erupted in controlled chaos. Clones rushed to the barrier, expecting to see a body floating dead in the vacuum. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Medical droids beeped in distress. Instead, they watched in absolute silence as Goku hovered in the void, orange gi and black hair rippling in non-existent wind as his white aura flared to life around him. He looked back through the shield, gave them another thumbs up, then shot toward the dying frigate like a missile. "He's flying," Anakin whispered, face pressed against the viewport. "In vacuum, without a ship, without a suit." "Master, he's actually flying." "Impossible," Mace breathed. But the evidence was floating before them, crossing the distance between ships in seconds. Yoda said nothing, but his ancient eyes gleamed with something that might have been recognition. He had lived 800 years and seen many impossible things. This was simply one more to add to the list. Goku reached the intervention and pressed his hands against the hull, feeling the vibrations of failing systems through the metal. Inside, he could sense the crew's terror, not with the Force, which he didn't possess, but with the same key sense that had let him find opponents across planets. They were concentrated in the aft sections, huddled together as their ship died around them. He took a breath. He didn't technically need old habits from atmospheric flying, and positioned himself beneath the frigate's center of mass. His aura intensified, white energy crackling across his form as he pressed both hands against the hull and pushed. The ship weighed thousands of tons. Its momentum was carrying it toward planetary re-entry at terminal velocity. By every law of physics that the Republic understood, one humanoid figure couldn't possibly alter its trajectory. Goku pushed harder. The intervention shuddered. Its death spiral slowed. And then, impossibly, it began to move, not falling, but rising, pushed back toward stable orbit by forces that should not exist. Inside the prominence, every sensor locked onto the impossible scene. Every Jedi in the hangar reached out through the Force, trying to understand what they were witnessing, and found nothing. No Force manipulation, no technological assistance, just raw physical power operating on a scale that made their understanding of the possible seem quaint. "Get me Supreme Chancellor Palpatine," Mace ordered quietly. "He needs to know about this immediately." Anakin couldn't tear his eyes away from the viewport. He'd always believed the Force made Jedi special, that their connection to the mystical energy placed them above ordinary beings. But watching Goku casually accomplish what would require a dozen Jedi working in concert shattered that comfortable assumption. "Master," he said to Obi-Wan, voice barely above a whisper. "What is he?" Obi-Wan stroked his beard, watching as Goku successfully pushed the frigate into stable orbit and began guiding it back toward the prominence with the care of someone carrying an injured friend. "I don't know, Anakin, but I suspect we've just encountered something the Jedi Order has never prepared for, power that exists completely outside our understanding of how the universe works." Yoda's ears drooped slightly, thoughtful and troubled. "Dangerous, this could be. Or necessary. Time will tell." On Coruscant, in the Chancellor's private office, Darth Sidious received Mace Windu's transmission. He listened in silence as the Jedi Master described the stranger's abilities, his features schooled into Palpatine's concerned grandfatherly expression. But behind his eyes, the Sith Lord's mind raced, an entity of enormous power invisible to the Force, uncorrupted by darkness. Apparently, the Jedi wouldn't be this open if they sensed any taint, but also unbound by the light. Pure chaos introduced into his carefully balanced plans. "Keep me informed, Master Windu," Palpatine said warmly. "The Republic must understand any new factors in this conflict." After the transmission ended, the mask dropped. Sidious stared at the hologram's echo, red eyes burning in the dim office. This Goku represented everything he'd spent decades engineering against an unpredictable variable. Power without ambition was useless to corrupt. Strength without desire gave him no leverage. But everyone had a weakness. Everyone wanted something. The Sith Lord smiled coldly, He would simply need to discover what the stranger truly valued. And then, like every other piece on his board, Goku would serve the grand plan, whether he knew it or not. The intervention's crew filed through the docking tube with the haunted expressions of people who just walked away from certain death. Clone engineers immediately swarmed the damaged frigate, assessing hull integrity and cataloging the catastrophic system failures. Their technical reports would later note that the ship should have broken apart under the structural stress of its forced trajectory change, that it hadn't defied multiple principles of metallurgic science. Goku floated back through the atmospheric shield, landing lightly on the hangar deck. His gi wasn't even singed from vacuum exposure. He brushed some space dust off his sleeve with the same casual air someone might use after walking through a light rain, then noticed the absolute silence that had fallen over the hangar. Every clone trooper, pilot, and technician had stopped working. Every Jedi stood motionless, staring at him with expressions ranging from awe to something approaching fear. Even the astromech droids had ceased their beeping. "What?" Goku asked in his own language, genuinely confused by the attention. "He'd just helped some people. That's what you did, right?" Was this one of those cultural misunderstanding things Bulma was always getting on his case about? The silence broke as the intervention's captain, a clone with commander markings and a healing gash across his helmet, approached. He stopped before Goku and removed his helmet, revealing the identical face shared by thousands of his brothers. But his eyes held something unique: raw, honest gratitude. "Sir," the commander said, coming to attention and saluting with military precision, "CC-4477 and the crew of the intervention owe you our lives. If there's anything we can do..." Goku tilted his head, catching none of the words but all of the emotion. The clone's energy signature radiated warmth and appreciation. That, at least, was universal. He grinned and clapped the commander on the shoulder gently by his standards, though the clone still staggered slightly. Then Goku pointed at himself, then at the commander, and made a gesture that encompassed everyone around them before placing his fist over his heart. The message was clear: "We're all in this together." CC-4477 found himself smiling behind his professional military bearing. Something about this strange warrior's simple directness cut through the clone's programmed formality. "I think I like him, sirs," he said to the assembled Jedi. "Sentiment noted, Commander," Mace Windu replied, though his tone had softened fractionally. Actions spoke louder than words, and Goku's instinctive heroism had just saved 200 Republic soldiers. "Return to your duties. We'll handle our guest." As the hangar slowly returned to organized chaos, Mace turned to face Goku directly. The Jedi Master's presence in the Force was formidable centuries of Jedi tradition and power channeled through unshakable discipline. He'd faced Sith Lords, crime bosses, and political vipers without flinching. Meeting Goku's open, curious gaze felt oddly disarming. "We need answers," Mace stated, more to the other Jedi than to Goku himself. "Yoda, can you attempt a Force connection? Perhaps a mind bridge?" The ancient Jedi hobbled closer, peering up at Goku with eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. Goku, for his part, crouched down to be at eye level with the small master, another gesture of respect that made Yoda's ears twitch with approval. "Look into your mind." "I will," Yoda said gently, raising one clawed hand. "Show me your memories, if willing you are." Goku didn't understand the words, but he sensed the question in the old master's intent. He nodded slowly, trusting his instincts about the small warrior's character. Yoda reached out through the Force, preparing to forge a connection that would allow shared thoughts and images despite the language barrier. It was an advanced technique, one that required willing participation from both parties. He'd done it countless times, seen into the hearts and minds of Jedi across the galaxy. His mental touch found. Nothing. Not resistance, not shielding, simply absence, as if Goku existed in a blind spot of reality itself. Yoda pushed deeper, drawing on 8 centuries of experience and power. The Force swirled around Goku, past him, through him, even but never touched the Saiyan's consciousness. It was like trying to grab water with a net. Yoda withdrew, breathing slightly harder from the effort. His ears drooped in consternation. Strange, this is. Not blocked, his mind is. Simply, elsewhere. Beyond the Force's reach, he exists. Then how do we communicate? Obi-Wan asked, frustrated. We can't keep playing charades. Perhaps we don't need the Force, a calm voice interjected. C-3PO shuffled forward, his golden plating reflecting the hangar lights as he approached with R2-D2 rolling beside him. The protocol droid tilted his head in Goku's direction with characteristic anxiety. Oh my, Master Skywalker, are you quite certain it's safe to approach this person? The odds of successful communication without proper linguistic protocols are approximately, just try 3PO, Anakin urged. You speak 6 million languages. Maybe one of them will work. The protocol droid straightened with mechanical dignity and cycled through his linguistic database. He attempted Huttese, Boche, Binary, Shiri-Wook, Real, Durace, and 24 other languages in rapid succession. With each attempt, Goku's expression grew more apologetic and confused. Finally, C-3PO's vocabulator emitted a series of sounds that bore some resemblance to Japanese phonetics, a linguistic pattern from the outer rim world of Nippon, colonized millennia ago by human settlers and largely isolated from the Greater Republic. Goku's eyes widened. Wait, I understood some of that. Say it again. C-3PO repeated the phrase, his translation matrices straining to process the response. Oh my. Master Anakin, I believe we've established partial communication. His dialect is extraordinarily archaic, but I'm detecting root similarities to Old Nipponese. Give me a moment to calibrate. The protocol droid's processors whirred audibly as he parsed Goku's response and adjusted his translation algorithms. It wasn't perfect. There were gaps where concepts simply didn't translate, and Goku's casual speech patterns clashed with C-3PO's formal programming, but it was workable. Ask him where he's from, Mace commanded. C-3PO complied, his vocabulator producing sounds that made Goku's face light up with recognition. The Saiyan launched into an enthusiastic explanation, gesturing wildly as he spoke. The protocol droid's optical sensors flickered rapidly, processing information that clearly strained his circuits. He says, "Oh dear. He says he's from a planet called Earth, but not this galaxy's Earth. He's very insistent about that. He was attempting something called instant transmission, a technique that allows him to teleport across vast distances by focusing on energy signatures. He was trying to reach someone named King Kai when something went wrong, and he ended up here instead. Teleportation without technology, or the Force," Obi-Wan mused. "That would explain the lack of a rival signature. There's more." C-3PO continued, his tone growing increasingly distressed. "He's describing battles with something called gods of destruction and, oh my, beings that can destroy entire planets with ease, and he claims he's fought them successfully. Sir, I must note that these statements seem highly improbable, but he appears to believe them completely." Goku noticed their skeptical expressions and frowned. Through C-3PO's translation, he asked, "You don't believe me? I'm not that strong compared to some people I know. Lord Beerus could destroy this whole star system without trying. Whis is even stronger, and perhaps," Yoda interrupted gently, "demonstrate. You could? Show us this key you spoke of." Goku's expression brightened immediately. He loved showing off techniques to people who appreciated martial arts. He held out one hand, palm up, and concentrated. A sphere of blue-white energy materialized above his palm, crackling with contained power. It wasn't the Force. The Jedi could feel the complete absence of midi-chlorian manipulation. This was something else. Something that existed in parallel to everything they understood about energy and life. The key sphere cast dancing shadows across the hangar as Goku compressed it smaller, the energy density increasing until the air itself began to shimmer from the heat. Then he tossed it casually upward. It detonated against the hangar's reinforced ceiling in a controlled burst that would have vaporized an unshielded person. The ceiling didn't even scorch. Goku had calibrated the blast perfectly. "Show off," Anakin muttered, though he was grinning. Goku caught the tone, if not the words, and laughed, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. "Through C-3PO, he explained. "Sorry, I just love a good fight. When those robots attacked, I got pretty excited. Are there more of them? They seemed pretty weak, but if you have tougher ones, he wants to know if there are stronger opponents to fight." The droid translated dutifully. "I really must protest. Sir, this person seems to have a rather alarming fixation on combat." Mace and Obi-Wan exchanged glances. A being of immense power who craved combat but apparently lacked malicious intent, who'd saved lives instinctively but now asked about finding stronger enemies to test himself against. In the wrong hands, such a person could be catastrophically dangerous. In the right hands, tell him, Mace said carefully, that yes, there are much stronger opponents in this conflict, and that we could use his help. As C-3PO translated, Goku's grin widened to something approaching joy. On a separatist command ship fleeing Geonosis, Count Dooku received a holographic transmission. Darth Sidious's hooded form materialized, and even through the grainy blue projection, the Sith Lord's displeasure was palpable. "Tell me about this Goku," Sidious commanded, his voice soft and deadly. Dooku chose his words carefully. "A warrior of extraordinary physical ability, Master. He exists outside the Force. I cannot sense him at all, but his raw power is considerable. Then we must either control him or eliminate him," Sidious replied. "I will not have my plans disrupted by a random variable. Test him, Lord Tyrannus. Find his weakness. Everyone has one." The hologram flickered out, leaving Dooku alone with his thoughts. He'd sensed no darkness in the strange warrior, no ambition to exploit. But the Sith had turned more difficult subjects before. All it took was the right pressure applied to the right point. The Republic Command Center aboard the Prominence hummed with activity as holographic displays tracked the evolving battle on Geonosis' surface. Jedi Masters stood in a loose circle around the central tactical projector, their expressions grim as casualty reports filtered in. The Clone Wars' first battle was proving costlier than anyone had anticipated, except perhaps those who had orchestrated it. Goku sat cross-legged on the deck near Anakin and Obi-Wan, watching the holographic projections with fascination. C-3PO stood nearby, serving as reluctant translator while R2-D2 beeped what sounded like sarcastic commentary. Over the past hour, through halting conversation and 3PO's increasingly strained translation protocols, the Jedi had managed to piece together a basic understanding of their unexpected ally. "So let me see if I understand correctly," Obi-Wan said, stroking his beard. "You're a martial artist from another universe who has fought beings capable of destroying planets. You can sense life energy, what you call ki, across vast distances, and you arrived here completely by accident while trying to visit a deity." Goku nodded enthusiastically, pleased that they were finally getting it. "Through C-3PO, he replied, "Yeah, pretty much. King Kai lives on a tiny planet at the end of Snake Way. I've been there lots of times, but something weird happened with my instant transmission this time. I felt this huge concentration of energy." He gestured at the assembled Jedi, and then boom, I was in that sandy arena place. "The Force," Yoda murmured thoughtfully. drawn to our presence. His technique was thousands of Jedi in one place, fighting and dying, a beacon in the Force we created. Through dimensions, it called to him. Troubling implications, that has, Mace added. If our use of the Force can accidentally pull beings from other realities. Anakin wasn't focused on philosophical concerns. He leaned forward, eyes bright with curiosity that made him seem younger than his 20 years. These transformations you mentioned, Super Saiyan? What's that? Goku's expression lit up like a child being asked about his favorite topic. Oh, that's when a Saiyan pushes their power beyond normal limits. Your hair turns gold. Your strength increases. It's amazing. I can show you if you want. Before anyone could respond to that alarming offer, a clone commander approached the Jedi Circle. Masters, we've identified a primary separatist staging ground, 20 clicks northeast of the Foundries. Heavy fortifications, multiple spider droids, and what appears to be a separatist command bunker. Intel suggests Count Dooku may be coordinating from that location. Mace studied the tactical display, weighing options with a general's practicality. If we can capture or eliminate Dooku, we could cripple their command structure and end this battle. A strike team, Obi-Wan suggested. Small, fast, before they have time to evacuate. Master Kenobi, you and Skywalker will lead the assault, Mace decided. Take 2 squads of clone troopers and I'll go too. Goku interjected through C-3PO's translation. The Saiyan was already standing, bouncing slightly on his feet with barely contained energy. That Dooku guy, he was in the arena, right? The one in the fancy clothes watching the fights? The Jedi exchanged glances. They deliberately avoided mentioning Dooku's presence, uncertain how much information to share with someone they'd met less than 2 hours ago. How did you know that? Obi-Wan asked carefully. Goku tapped his temple. I could sense him. His energy is different from everyone else's, darker, heavier, like someone carrying a lot of anger around, and he was watching me very carefully during the fight. I figured he was probably important. The Jedi Council members shared another look, this one more troubled. Goku had identified a Sith Lord's dark presence without the Force, purely through his ki sense. That suggested his abilities might be more complementary to their own than they'd realized. Dooku is extremely dangerous, Mace warned. He's a former Jedi Master who has turned to the dark side. His lightsaber skills are among the finest in the galaxy. Goku's eyes gleamed with interest. So he's strong? Good. I was hoping for a real challenge. This isn't a sport, Obi-Wan said sharply. Dooku is a war criminal responsible for thousands of deaths. Our objective is to capture or stop him, not to test yourself against him. The rebuke was delivered with Jedi sternness, but Goku's expression didn't change. Through C-3PO, he replied with unexpected seriousness. I get that he's a bad guy, but where I come from, I've fought a lot of bad guys, some who destroyed entire civilizations just because they could. And I learned something. If you're going to stop someone that powerful, you need to be stronger than them. Wanting to test yourself and wanting to protect people aren't opposites. Anakin found himself nodding before he caught himself. The sentiment echoed his own feelings about power and protection feelings. His masters constantly warned him were a path to the dark side. Yoda's ears perked forward, studying Goku with renewed interest. Wisdom in simplicity, sometimes there is, but attachment to combat, dangerous it can be. To the dark side it leads. Goku frowned as C-3PO translated, processing the concept. Dark side? Is that like when someone uses their power for selfish reasons? Hurting people because they want to? More complex. It is, Yoda replied. Fear, anger, hatred, these feed the dark side. Cloud judgment, they do, lead to suffering. Oh, I get it, Goku said, his tone suggesting he really didn't get the nuances at all. So it's like when Vegeta used to fight all angry and proud, not caring who got hurt, but he's better now. We're actually friends." The protocol droid's translation of that statement caused several Jedi to raise eyebrows. The idea that someone could simply reform from dark tendencies through friendship struck them as dangerously naive. "It's not that simple," Obi-Wan began. An explosion rocked the command center. Alarms shrieked as tactical displays lit up with red warning indicators. A clone officer called out from his station, "Separatist counterattack. They're targeting our anti-air batteries on the ridge. If those fall, their fighters will have free access to our landing zones." Mace moved to the tactical display, assessing the situation with practiced efficiency. "How long until they breach?" "Estimated 10 minutes, sir. We're scrambling reinforcements, but the nearest battalion is 20 minutes out." Goku was already at the viewport, looking down at Geonosis's surface. Even from orbit, he could sense the battle's intensity, thousands of energy signatures clashing, many winking out as lives ended. And there, on a ridge glowing with weapons fire, a smaller group was being overwhelmed. "Those soldiers on the ridge," he said, pointing. "They need help now." "We don't have the forces available," Mace said grimly. "The men there will have to hold as long as they can. Then I'll go help them." The statement was simple, delivered without bravado or expectation of praise. Goku was already walking toward the hangar bay. "Wait," Obi-Wan called. "You can't just fly down into the middle of a battle without coordination, without support." Goku looked back, and for the first time, his expression held something other than cheerful enthusiasm. It was the look of someone who'd seen too many people die because help arrived too late. "Those soldiers don't have time for coordination," he said through C-3PO's increasingly flustered translation. "I can sense their energy getting weaker. Some of them are going to die if someone doesn't do something right now." "And what will you do against droid armies and artillery emplacements?" Mace challenged. "Raw power isn't. I'll figure it out." Goku's tone remained calm but immovable. "I always do. That's what fighting is, adapting to your opponent." He was moving again, breaking into a jog that carried him toward the hangar faster than any normal human could run. Anakin made a decision. "I'm going with him." "Anakin," Obi-Wan started. "Master, he just saved 200 lives without being asked. He's going to help those clone troopers whether we approve or not. Someone should go who can actually coordinate with Republic forces." The young Jedi was already igniting his lightsaber, the blue blade humming. "Besides, I want to see what he can really do." Obi-Wan recognized the tone. His former Padawan had made up his mind, which meant arguing would only waste time. "Fine, but Anakin, be careful. We still don't know what he's fully capable of. That's what makes it interesting, Master." By the time Obi-Wan reached the hangar, Goku and Anakin were already boarding a gunship. Clone pilots fired up the engines while troopers checked their weapons. CC-4477, the commander whose ship Goku had saved, had volunteered his squad for the mission. "Couldn't let you go without backup, sir," the clone said to Goku, though the Saiyan only caught the respectful tone. "You saved my men. We don't forget that." The gunship launched, screaming down toward Geonosis's atmosphere as Republic fighters provided escort. Inside, Goku gripped the overhead bar, feeling the ship shake from re-entry turbulence. His Saiyan biology handled it easily, though the clones looked slightly green behind their helmets. Anakin sat across from him, studying the strange warrior with barely concealed fascination. "Goku, what you said before about being stronger than your opponent to protect people, my master would say that's not the Jedi way. We're supposed to serve the Force, not seek power." Goku tilted his head, waiting for C-3PO to translate. Then he shrugged. "I don't know about all that Force stuff, but I know that when someone I care about is in danger, I want to be strong enough to save them. Isn't that what you want too?" The question was innocent, without judgment, but it struck something in Anakin, the same feelings he harbored about Padme, about his mother, about everyone he feared losing. The Jedi Code said attachment led to darkness. but Goku seemed to genuinely care about people without being consumed by it. Maybe there was another way. Approaching the ridge, the pilot called back. Enemy contacts are, sirs? My sensors are showing over 500 battle droids and at least 3 spider droids. We are significantly outnumbered. Through the viewport, they could see the besieged clone position, a hastily constructed defensive line being systematically torn apart by overwhelming firepower. Bodies in white armor lay motionless in the red sand. Goku's expression hardened. "Get me as close as you can. I'll handle it, sir, with all respect." "You can't possibly." The Saiyan was already at the door, white aura beginning to flare around him. "Watch me." He dove through the atmospheric shield before anyone could stop him, plummeting toward the battlefield like a meteor wrapped in light. Anakin watched him fall and couldn't help but grin. This was either going to be spectacular or catastrophic, possibly both. The clone troopers of Delta Company had accepted their fate, with the stoic professionalism bred into their genetics. Captain Rex, temporarily assigned to this position after his usual posting with General Skywalker, checked his DC-15's power cell and found it nearly depleted. Around him, his men maintained disciplined fire against the advancing separatist forces, but ammunition was running low, and their defensive emplacements were crumbling under sustained spider droid bombardment. "All squads, fall back to secondary positions," Rex ordered into his comlink, his voice steady despite the dire circumstances. "Concentrate fire on the spider droid's leg joints. Make every shot count." A massive explosion shattered the leftmost bunker, sending Duracrete and clone troopers flying. Rex watched 3 of his brothers fall and not rise again. The cold calculus of battle told him they had perhaps 5 minutes before being overrun. Then something fell from the sky. At first, Rex thought it was an orbital strike Republic command, sacrificing the ridge to deny it to the separatists. But the falling object was too small, too controlled. It struck the sand between the clone defensive line and the advancing droids with an impact that sent shockwaves rippling across the battlefield. Dust cleared, revealing a figure in orange standing in a crater of his own making. Goku straightened slowly, rolling his shoulders as he assessed the situation. 500 battle droids in formation, 3 massive spider droids advancing with laser cannons charging, and behind the clone troopers' defensive line, dozens of wounded men who couldn't retreat. The tactical situation was clear, even without understanding military doctrine. He cracked his knuckles and grinned. "Let's dance." The nearest spider droid acquired target lock. Its main cannon swiveled toward Goku, capacitors whining as they charged. The energy buildup would have been invisible to normal eyes, but Goku could sense it, a gathering of destructive potential preparing to unleash. He waited. The cannon fired, a lance of superheated energy designed to penetrate Republic armor plating. Goku tilted his head fractionally. The blast passed millimeters from his cheek, close enough that the heat would have vaporized an unprotected human. He remained motionless, letting the spider droid empty its entire capacitor bank in a sustained barrage that tore up the ground around him. When the dust settled, Goku stood in the exact same position, unharmed. Rex's vocabulator failed him. "What the? All units, hold fire!" Anakin's voice crackled over the general frequency as his gunship descended. "Let him work." Goku launched himself forward, and the battle transformed from conventional warfare into something the droid's tactical processors couldn't comprehend. He moved between blaster bolts like water flowing around stones, each movement minimal and precise. Years of training under Master Roshi, King Kai, and Whis had taught him that efficiency was the mark of true mastery. He reached the first spider droid and leaped, planting one foot on its leg joint. The droid tried to shake him off, its targeting systems screaming error messages. Goku simply tapped the metal a light touch by his standards, and the entire leg assembly crumpled like wet flimsy. The spider droid toppled sideways, its balance completely destroyed. "Target the joints like he showed us," Rex commanded, suddenly understanding. "Concentrate fire!" Clone blasters opened up with renewed purpose, exploiting the weakness Goku had revealed. The fallen spider droid's remaining legs shattered under sustained fire, leaving it helpless. Goku was already at the second walker. This time, he didn't bother with precision. He simply grabbed one of its legs with both hands and spun, using the entire multi-ton war machine as a weapon. The spider droid's companions barely had time to register the threat before their fellow weapon platform crashed into them at terminal velocity. The resulting collision sent all three spider droids tumbling across the battlefield in a twisted sculpture of metal and sparking systems. Battle droids opened fire from every direction, their simple AI recognizing the primary threat. Hundreds of blaster bolts converged on Goku's position, painting the air blue with plasma. The Saiyan's response was to extend both hands and release a controlled energy wave, not the devastating Kamehameha, but a precise burst that swept across the droid lines like a scythe. 200 battle droids simply ceased to exist, their circuits overloaded before their chassis could even register damage. "Okay," Anakin breathed from the gunship. "That's definitely not the Force." The remaining droids attempted to adapt, forming firing lines and coordinating their assault with mechanical precision. It might have worked against a normal opponent. Against Goku, it just made them easier to target. He moved through their ranks like wind through wheat, each strike perfectly calibrated. A palm thrust shattered a B-1's torso. A leg sweep sent 3 droids flying into their companions. When a super battle droid tried to grapple him with its reinforced arms, Goku simply flexed, and the droid's servo motors burned out from the stress. Rex and his men watched in awed silence as one person dismantled an army. "Captain," one of his troopers said quietly, "are we sure he's on our side?" "Right now, trooper. I don't care if he's from the unknown regions," Rex replied. "He's saving our lives." The last droid fell, its vocabulator still attempting to report target status as it collapsed. Goku stood in the center of the devastation, barely winded, his orange gi somehow still clean despite rolling through a battlefield. He looked around at the destroyed droids with satisfaction, then noticed the clone troopers staring at him. He waved cheerfully. Anakin's gunship landed, ramp dropping before the skids fully touched sand. The young Jedi descended with C-3PO, struggling to keep up, taking in the destruction with a mixture of amazement and concern. This level of power in the hands of someone they barely knew. "Goku," Anakin called out. "That was incredible, but we need to talk about..." The Saiyan's head snapped to the side. Attention suddenly focused on something distant. His expression shifted from cheerful to serious in an instant, and Anakin recognized the look. He'd seen it in fellow Jedi when they sensed danger through the Force. "What is it?" Anakin asked, hand dropping to his lightsaber. Through C-3PO's increasingly stressed translation, Goku replied, "That dark energy I sensed before the one from the arena. It's close now, really close, and it's strong." A low hum filled the air, growing steadily louder. From behind a rock formation 500 meters distant, a sleek solar sailor emerged Count Dooku's personal craft. The elegant ship settled onto the sand, and a ramp extended with mechanical precision. Count Dooku descended like nobility approaching their court, curved lightsaber hilt visible at his belt. His silver hair and beard were immaculate despite the battle, his dark cape flowing behind him. Everything about his bearing spoke of refined sophistication and absolute confidence. He stopped 30 meters from Goku, dark eyes studying the Saiyan with the intensity of a master duelist evaluating an opponent. "So," Dooku said, his cultured voice carrying across the battlefield, "you're the anomaly disrupting the natural order. I must admit, when I sensed your arrival, I was intrigued." Goku couldn't understand the words, but he recognized the challenge in Dooku's stance. Every warrior spoke that language fluently. Anakin, Rex said carefully, I think we should fall back and call for reinforcements. No, Anakin replied, activating his lightsaber. The blue blade ignited with a snap hiss that made Goku's eyes light up with renewed interest. This is exactly where we need to be. Dooku's hand moved to his lightsaber, but he didn't ignite it yet. Tell your primitive friend that he has a choice. The Republic is corrupt, serving the interests of bloated bureaucrats and failing the galaxy. The Confederacy offers order, efficiency, and a new vision. Someone of his obvious talents would be valued. C-3PO translated nervously, adding, Oh dear, I really don't think we should be here for this. Goku listened to the translation, head tilted thoughtfully. Then he responded, and even without translation, his tone made his position clear. He says, C-3PO announced with obvious distress, that he doesn't care about politics, but he knows you were watching people get fed to monsters for entertainment, and where he comes from, people who do that are called villains. And then he said something that doesn't quite translate, but I believe the sentiment is that he would like to fight you. Dooku's refined smile didn't waver, but something cold entered his eyes. How disappointingly simple. Very well. Perhaps a demonstration of true power will clarify matters. His lightsaber ignited with a crimson hiss, the curved hilt marking him as a practitioner of Form 2 Makashi, the dueling form perfected over centuries for lightsaber combat. The red blade hummed in his hand, somehow more menacing than Anakin's blue one. Goku's grin widened. Finally, someone strong. Goku, wait, Anakin called. Lightsabers can cut through almost anything. You can't just... The Saiyan was already moving, closing the 30-meter distance in a blur. Dooku's eyes widened fractionally, the only sign of surprise he allowed himself as his force precognition screamed warnings. He brought his lightsaber up in a defensive parry that had intercepted countless attacks. Goku's fist met the blade. The impact sent shockwaves rippling across the battlefield, sand blasting outward in a perfect circle. Dooku's lightsaber, a weapon capable of cutting through blast doors, skidded along Goku's knuckles and drew. Nothing. No blood, no burn, not even a scorch mark. The Saiyan's ki-reinforced skin was harder than any armor Dooku had encountered. Interesting toy, Goku said, his tone genuinely appreciative even though Dooku couldn't understand the words. Then he punched. Dooku's decades of Jedi training saved his life. He threw himself backward with force-enhanced speed, the air whistling where his head had been a split second before. He landed in a perfect dueling stance, but his refined composure had cracked slightly. This wasn't possible. Nothing organic could withstand a lightsaber's plasma blade. Nothing should be able to move that fast without force enhancement, and yet this primitive had done both. My Lord Sidious was correct, Dooku murmured. You are indeed dangerous. He extended his free hand, and force lightning erupted from his fingertips, crackling purple energy that had brought even Jedi masters to their knees. The lightning engulfed Goku, electricity dancing across his body in spiderwebs of painful energy. Goku's hair stood up, and his muscles tensed from the electrical current. It hurt, genuinely hurt, in a way the blaster bolts hadn't. But he'd fought beings who could destroy planets. Pain was just information. He walked forward through the lightning. Dooku poured more power into the attack, drawing deeply on the dark side. The Force answered his call, fueling the lightning until the very air crackled with destructive energy. Any normal being would be ash. Goku broke through and delivered a casual backhand that sent Count Dooku flying 50 meters backward, tumbling across the sand. The Sith Lord rose slowly, robes scorched and dignity severely damaged. For the first time in decades, Count Dooku faced an opponent he wasn't certain he could defeat, and somewhere in the shadows of space, Darth Sidious watched through his apprentice's eyes and began to truly appreciate the magnitude of the problem named Goku. Count Dooku steadied himself, drawing on decades of Jedi training and Sith discipline to suppress the pain radiating through his ribs. That casual backhand had cracked bone, he could feel it with each breath. The realization was simultaneously humbling and infuriating. He was a Sith Lord, apprenticed to the most powerful dark side user in a millennium, and this primitive had swatted him like an insect. Unacceptable. You possess raw strength, Dooku acknowledged, his cultured voice regaining its composure even as he tasted copper in his mouth. But strength without refinement is merely brutality. Allow me to demonstrate the difference. He centered himself in the Force, letting the dark side flow through his limbs with practiced ease. The pain faded, pushed aside by cold calculation. His lightsaber came up in the classic Makashi opening stance, elegant, precise, centuries of accumulated wisdom in every angle. Goku settled into his own fighting stance. One Gohan had helped him refine after the Tournament of Power. Weight distributed perfectly, center of gravity low, ready to move in any direction. Master Roshi would have been proud. They moved simultaneously. Dooku's blade traced patterns in the air with surgical precision, each strike targeting vital points with minimal wasted motion. His footwork was perfection itself, the economy of movement that came from a lifetime of dueling mastery. He channeled the Force through his precognition, reading Goku's intentions before the Saiyan moved, and found himself completely overwhelmed. Goku's martial arts were raw compared to Makashi's refinement, but they were backed by speed and power that made precision irrelevant. He slipped inside Dooku's guard, forced the Count to abandon technique for desperate defense. The lightsaber's plasma blade drew across Goku's forearms, his shoulders, even his chest, and produced nothing but faint red marks that faded within seconds. His cellular structure is regenerating instantly, Dooku realized with growing alarm. Even the blade's energy dispersion isn't sufficient to cause lasting damage. He disengaged, using the Force to hurl debris chunks of destroyed spider droids, loose boulders, even the corpses of battle droids. Goku weaved through the barrage with the fluid grace of someone who dodged far worse, occasionally swatting aside pieces that came too close. "Is this all you've got?" Goku called out, frustration creeping into his tone. C-3PO translated from his position behind the clone defensive lines, though his vocabulator crackled with stress. "You felt strong when I sensed you. Show me what you can really do." Anakin watched the duel with conflicted fascination. Part of him, the part his masters warned against, thrilled at seeing someone match a Sith Lord with pure martial prowess. Another part recognized the danger. Goku was toying with Dooku. Not because he was cruel, but because he genuinely wanted a good fight. That kind of thinking got people killed. "We should help him," Rex suggested, his DC-15 tracking Dooku's movements. "No," Anakin said quietly. "Blasters won't do anything to Dooku that Goku isn't already doing. And if we interfere..." He trailed off, remembering how casually Goku had destroyed an entire droid battalion. I don't think he'd appreciate it. Dooku sensed the shift in the battle's rhythm. This creature he refused to think of something so powerful as merely human wanted a genuine challenge. Craved it, even. That desire was a weakness the Sith could exploit. "You want to see my true power?" Dooku asked, a cold smile playing across his refined features. "Very well, but first, answer me this. Can you sense those clone troopers behind you? Their life energy, as you call it?" Goku paused, confused by the question but answering through C-3PO's translation. "Yeah, of course. There's about 40 of them, and some are pretty weak. They're hurt. And can you sense the thousands of beings across this battlefield? Republic soldiers fighting and dying while you indulge yourself in combat?" Dooku's voice took on a persuasive edge, the same tone he'd used to sway systems to the separatist cause. "Every second you waste testing yourself against me, people are suffering. Tell me, warrior, what matters more? Your desire for a worthy opponent or their lives? The words struck home. Goku's expression shifted from eager anticipation to troubled uncertainty. He could sense the other battles raging across Geonosis, the life energies winking out as soldiers on both sides fell. He'd been so focused on the excitement of fighting someone strong that he'd forgotten why he came here. To save people. You're right, Goku said quietly, lowering his hands. I got carried away. That happens sometimes when Dooku struck with viper-fast precision, his lightsaber augmented by a force push that sent Goku stumbling backward. Before the Saiyan could recover, the Count's solar sailor's defensive systems activated. Concealed laser batteries emerged from the elegant vessel, targeting not Goku but the clone defensive positions. No! Anakin ignited his lightsaber, but he was too far away, too slow. The batteries opened fire. Goku's head snapped up at the sound of clone troopers crying out in alarm. His key sense registered their panic, their fear, the certainty of incoming death. Time seemed to slow, not actually, but his perception accelerated the way it did when stakes were highest. He moved. Rex saw only a blur of orange as something passed between the laser fire and his men. Then Goku was standing with his arms outstretched, and the laser barrage that should have vaporized the clone position was simply stopping. Each bolt impacted the Saiyan's body and dispersed, energy absorbed by key-reinforced cellular structure that had survived far worse. The barrage lasted 3 seconds. When it ended, Goku's gi was scorched and smoking, but he remained upright. Behind him, every clone trooper was unharmed. You used them, Goku said, his voice quiet but carrying an edge the Jedi hadn't heard before. You attacked people who couldn't defend themselves to distract me. Dooku's smile was cold satisfaction. I attacked military targets. This is war, not sport. Something you clearly fail to understand. Oh, I understand. Goku's aura began to flare again, white energy crackling around him with increased intensity. His ki was rising, not in excitement, but in genuine anger. Where I come from, we have a name for people who hide behind hurting the innocent. Coward. The word needed no translation. Dooku felt it in the Force, saw it in the way Goku's entire demeanor shifted. This was no longer a warrior seeking challenge. This was someone who'd been reminded why he fought in the first place. Goku, wait! Anakin called out, sensing the spike in tension. We need him alive for questioning. But Goku was done waiting. He appeared in front of Dooku before the Count could raise his lightsaber, moving faster than the Sith Lord's precognition could track. One hand gripped Dooku's wrist with crushing force, the lightsaber falling from nerveless fingers. The other hand pressed against the Count's chest, not striking but simply holding him in place. I don't know your language well enough to say this right, Goku said through C-3PO's frantic translation. But Master Roshi taught me something important. Real strength protects people. If you're using yours to hurt people who can't fight back, then you're not strong at all. White energy began to build in Goku's palm, pressed against Dooku's sternum. The Sith Lord felt the power gathering, recognized it as the same technique that had vaporized 200 battle droids. At this range, even his considerable force abilities couldn't protect him. Goku, no! Anakin was running now, lightsaber raised. We need him alive! The Saiyan's eyes met Dooku's, and the Count saw something that shook him more than the threat of death, genuine disappointment. This primitive had expected better from someone powerful. Goku released the energy. The controlled blast sent Dooku flying backward like a leaf in a storm, his body ragdolling across the sand until he struck his own solar sailor with bone-crushing force. The elegant ship's hull crumpled around the impact point. Dooku slumped to the ground, conscious but barely, his refined robes in tatters. Goku stood for a moment, his aura fading. Then he turned to check on the clone troopers. his expression returning to its usual friendliness, as if the last 10 seconds hadn't happened. "Everyone okay?" he asked through gestures, checking on the wounded clones with genuine concern. Rex approached slowly, removing his helmet to reveal a face marked by awe and something approaching reverence. "Sir, you took a full laser barrage meant for us." Goku shrugged, scratching the back of his head. "That's what you do for friends, right? Take hits so they don't have to?" "We're not friends, sir," Rex said carefully. "We just met." "Yeah?" Goku grinned. "Well, we are now. You guys fight pretty well, reminding me to visit you after we sort all this out. Maybe we can spar." The clones exchanged glances behind their helmets. The idea of sparring with someone who just soloed a Sith Lord was terrifying and oddly appealing in equal measure. Anakin reached Dooku's crumpled form, quickly binding the unconscious Count's hands with force-suppressing restraints. The man who'd orchestrated this war, who'd nearly killed Obi-Wan multiple times, who represented everything dark and manipulative about the Sith, neutralized by someone who treated combat like friendly competition. "Goku," Anakin said as the Saiyan approached. I don't even know what to call that." "A good fight," Goku replied through translation, though his smile was strained. "But he's wrong about me. I don't fight just for fun. I fight to protect people. It's just that I enjoy the fighting part too. Is that weird?" Anakin thought about his own struggle with attachment, passion, and the Jedi Code's demand for emotional distance. "No," he said quietly. "I don't think it's weird at all." Above them, Republic gunships began descending, alerted by Rex's squad that Count Dooku had been captured. This changed everything: the Battle of Geonosis, the Clone Wars' trajectory, all of it pivoting on the presence of one warrior from another reality. On Coruscant, in the shadows of the Chancellor's office, Darth Sidious watched through the Force and felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: uncertainty. His carefully laid plans, built on the foundation of Dooku leading the Separatists while he controlled the Republic, had just collapsed. Dooku captured. The Separatists' command structure in chaos. And all because of one unpredictable variable who couldn't be sensed, controlled, or manipulated through normal means. The Sith Lord's eyes narrowed. Very well. If Goku couldn't be controlled through the Force, he would be controlled through his obvious weakness, that naive desire to protect others. Everyone had a pressure point. Sidious simply needed to find his, and he had an entire galaxy to use as leverage. "Master Windu," Sidious said into his comlink, his voice perfectly calibrated to convey concerned authority. "I understand there's been a significant development on Geonosis." "Yes, Chancellor." Mace's hologram appeared, his expression carefully neutral. "Count Dooku has been captured by our guest." "Excellent news. Have this Goku brought to Coruscant immediately. The Senate will want to thank him personally, and I think it's time we had a proper conversation about his role in our Republic." The hologram flickered out. Sidious allowed himself a cold smile. The game had changed, but he was still the master player, and Goku, for all his power, was about to learn that the most dangerous battles weren't fought with fists. They were fought with words, politics, and the slow corruption of good intentions. The Senate building on Coruscant gleamed in the morning light, its massive rotunda a testament to democracy and bureaucracy in equal measure. Goku stood in the central platform, hands clasped behind his back as he tried not to fidget, while thousands of senators watched from their floating pods. The sheer scale of the chamber made even someone who'd visited Otherworld feel small. "This is amazing," he whispered to Anakin, who stood beside him in formal robes. "How many people are here?" "About 10,000 senators representing star systems across the galaxy," Anakin replied quietly. C-3PO stood just behind them, ready to translate. "Try to look dignified. The Supreme Chancellor is about to address you personally." Goku nodded seriously, then immediately started looking around at all the floating pods with undisguised fascination. Dignified lasted about 5 seconds. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine's pod floated forward, his grandfatherly features arranged in warm approval. The old man's presence was calming, reassuring everything a leader should be. Yet, something about him made Goku's instincts itch in a way he couldn't quite identify. Citizens of the Republic. Palpatine's voice carried across the chamber with practiced ease. We are gathered to honor an extraordinary individual. In our darkest hour, when war came to Geonosis, a stranger appeared and saved countless lives. Through courage and selflessness, he captured the traitor Count Dooku and turned the tide of battle. Applause erupted from thousands of pods. Goku shifted uncomfortably, unused to this kind of attention. When people cheered for him on Earth, it was usually after a tournament. This felt different, heavier somehow. Goku, Palpatine continued, his eyes twinkling with what seemed like genuine warmth. On behalf of the Galactic Republic, I extend our deepest gratitude. Your actions have saved thousands of lives and dealt a significant blow to the Separatist cause. C-3PO translated rapidly, and Goku nodded politely. I just did what anyone would do, he said through the droid. Those soldiers needed help. The humility seemed to resonate with the Senate. More applause. Palpatine's smile widened fractionally. Such modesty from such power. Tell me, would you consider remaining with us? The Republic faces a long conflict, and warriors of your caliber could save countless lives. We would be honored to have you join our cause. Goku frowned, considering. Through C-3PO, he asked, what exactly is this war about? The other guy, Dooku, said something about corruption and a new order, but you seem like decent people. The question hung in the air, dangerously naive in its directness. Several senators shifted uncomfortably. Asking about the war's causes in the middle of the Senate was either remarkably brave or remarkably stupid. Palpatine, however, simply nodded sagely. The Separatists claim they seek independence from Republic bureaucracy. In truth, they serve corporate interests, trade cartels, and banking clans that care nothing for the common people. They've built armies of droids to enforce their will through violence. But you have armies too, Goku pointed out. Those clone troopers, they're all soldiers born to fight, right? Anakin tensed beside him. That was dangerously close to questioning the Republic's moral foundation. The clone army was a complicated subject most senators preferred not to examine too closely. The clones volunteered, one senator began. They were created to fight. Goku interrupted through translation, his tone confused rather than accusatory. That's not the same as choosing to. Where I come from, we met artificial people androids built by Dr. Gero to kill. They didn't get a choice either, at first. But later they did, and some of them became good people. Do your clones get to choose what they want to be? The silence was deafening. Obi-Wan, watching from the Jedi Council's observation pod, closed his eyes. He's going to cause a political incident, he murmured to Mace Windu. He already has, Mace replied, though his tone held an edge of approval. But he's asking questions we should have asked ourselves. Palpatine's expression remained benevolent, but behind his eyes, Darth Sidious reassessed. This wasn't simple naivety. Goku's moral compass was genuinely unburdened by political sophistication. He saw the galaxy in terms of right and wrong, with a clarity that made him dangerous. The clones serve with honor, Palpatine said carefully. They are treated well, and that's not what I asked, Goku said, and despite C-3PO's nervous translation, the point landed cleanly. Before Palpatine could respond, an alarm shrieked through the Senate chamber. Security droids activated, their weapons tracking toward the entrances as blast doors began to seal. A holographic display materialized in the chamber's center, showing tactical data that made several senators gasp. Separatist fleet dropping out of hyperspace, a security officer announced. Multiple frigates and wait, that's impossible. Sir, we're reading a subjugator-class heavy cruiser in orbit. The Malevolence. Goku's head snapped up, sensing the massive concentration of energy signatures in orbit. Thousands of them, but also something else, a weapon charging, gathering power on a scale that made his Saiyan instincts scream warnings. "What's a Malevolence?" he asked urgently. Anakin's face had gone pale. "A Separatist superweapon. It has an ion pulse cannon that can disable entire fleets. If it fires on Coruscant's defense grid," the lights flickered. Every electronic system in the Senate building went dark for 3 seconds before emergency power kicked in. Through the massive viewport, they could see Republic ships in orbit going dark, their systems fried by the invisible pulse. "The planetary shield generators are failing," someone shouted. "Without shields, they can bombard the surface." Goku was already moving toward the viewport, his aura beginning to flare. "How do I get up there?" "You can't!" Anakin grabbed his arm, though it was like trying to hold back a mountain. "That ship has thousands of droids and weapons that people are going to die if I don't do something." Goku's voice was calm, but his eyes had taken on the focused intensity that came before serious combat. "I can sense the energy building in that big ship. It's charging another blast. You've got maybe 2 minutes. Mace Windu's voice cut through the chaos from the council pod. "Let him go, Anakin. We don't have any other options." Palpatine stood in his Chancellor's pod, watching the scene unfold with carefully concealed calculation. This attack wasn't scheduled. The Malevolence was supposed to be harassing Outer Rim shipping lanes, not attacking Coruscant, which meant Grievous had gone off-script, likely trying to capitalize on Dooku's capture, the Fool. But perhaps this improvisation could serve a purpose. "Goku," Palpatine called out, injecting urgency into his grandfatherly tones. "If you can stop that ship, you'll save millions of lives. The Senate grants you full authority to act in defense of Coruscant." Goku didn't wait for further permission. He simply pointed 2 fingers at his forehead, focused on the massive energy signature in orbit, and vanished. Instant transmission. He reappeared in the vacuum of space, floating amid a battle that had turned desperate. Republic cruisers drifted dead in space, their crews helpless as Separatist vulture droids swarmed around them. And dominating everything was the Malevolence, a massive warship shaped like a predatory maw, its ion cannon visibly charging for another devastating pulse. General Grievous stood on the bridge, his mechanical body hunched over tactical displays. When proximity alarms suddenly triggered, indicating an object had appeared directly off the bow, his yellow eyes narrowed. "What is that?" he rasped, his synthesized voice grinding like metal on metal. The answer became clear as Goku oriented himself in space, white aura blazing bright enough to register on the ship's optical sensors. The Saiyan took in the massive warship, the charging weapon, and the helpless Republic vessels, and made his assessment. This thing was about to kill a lot of people. He cupped his hands at his side, feeling ki gather between his palms. The Kamehameha wave was his signature technique, refined over decades, until it was as much instinct as conscious action. In atmosphere, he had to hold back. In space, with nothing but enemy hardware in his path, he could let loose. Ka, mi, ha, mi, ha. The beam that erupted from his hands was azure brilliance, a column of concentrated ki that crossed the distance between him and the Malevolence in microseconds. It struck the ion cannon directly, overwhelming its charging capacitors with energies they were never designed to handle. The weapon detonated. The Malevolence's entire forward section erupted in cascading explosions as the uncontrolled ion energy discharged through its own systems. Secondary explosions rippled along the hull as ammunition stores and fuel cells caught. The massive warship, terror of the Republic fleet, began breaking apart. Grievous had exactly enough time to register what had happened before structural collapse reached the bridge. "Impossible," he spat, then activated his emergency pod. The cyborg general wasn't fool enough to die for pride. Goku watched the ship come apart, then noticed something that made his eyes widen. Escape pods. Hundreds of them, launching from the dying vessel. And mixed among them were Republic life signatures. Prisoners, he realized. People who'd been captured. He moved through space like a missile, catching escape pods that were tumbling out of control, using his aura to slow ones that were heading toward Coruscant's atmosphere at terminal velocity. It was delicate work, requiring precision rather than power, but he trained for this kind of control. By the time Republic rescue ships arrived, every escape pod was accounted for. The survivors, Republic prisoners, and Separatist crew alike found themselves mysteriously saved by an orange-clad warrior who'd appeared from nowhere. Goku floated back toward Coruscant, watching the Malevolence's debris field scatter across orbital space. He felt tired, not physically, but emotionally. So much destruction, so much death. And he still didn't really understand what this war was about. On Coruscant's surface, in the Senate building, thousands of beings watched holographic footage of one person destroying a superweapon and saving hundreds of lives. The applause when Goku reappeared through instant transmission was deafening. Palpatine stood in his pod, smiling warmly. But Darth Sidious was recalculating. Goku had just destroyed a major Separatist asset and saved the Republic capital. Public opinion would make him untouchable. Trying to corrupt or eliminate him now would be counterproductive. No, the Sith Lord realized. The better play was to make Goku a symbol, a hero of the Republic, someone whose simple morality could be aimed at Sidious's enemies, while his presence complicated the Jedi's role. After all, if people had a hero who could destroy warships with his bare hands, why would they need the Jedi? "Goku," Palpatine announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. "You have saved Coruscant. The Republic owes you a debt that cannot be measured. Please, name your reward. Anything within our power to grant." Goku scratched his head, thinking. Through C-3PO, he finally replied, "Actually, I was wondering if anyone knows how to get me home. I'm kind of lost." The honesty of it made several senators laugh despite themselves. "We will dedicate our finest minds to solving that mystery," Palpatine promised. "But until then, perhaps you would honor us by remaining as an advisor. Your perspective is clearly valuable." Before Goku could answer, Anakin stepped forward. "Master Yoda, the Council should hear this. Goku sees the Force differently than we do, or doesn't see it at all. Maybe that's what we need right now." Yoda's hologram appeared, the ancient Jedi considering carefully. Attachment, young Skywalker concerns himself with. But perhaps right, he is. Perspective from outside the Force, valuable it could be. Goku had no idea he'd just become the center of a political and philosophical battle that would reshape the Republic's future. He just wanted to know if anyone had food, preferably a lot of it. The Jedi Temple stood as a monument to 10,000 years of tradition, its spires reaching toward Coruscant's perpetual twilight like fingers grasping for enlightenment. In the council chamber at the summit, 12 of the Order's wisest masters gathered in a circle, their collective wisdom meant to guide the Republic through its darkest hours. Today, that wisdom was being challenged by a man sitting cross-legged on the floor, cheerfully eating his 4th serving of temple rations while they debated his existence. "Unprecedented, this situation is," Yoda said from his council seat, ancient eyes studying Goku with the patience of centuries. "Power without the Force we have never encountered. Dangerous it could be, or necessary," Obi-Wan countered, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "Count Dooku is in custody. The Malevolence is destroyed. In 3 days, Goku has accomplished what might have taken us months of warfare. The clone casualties alone. The clones are bred for war, Mace Windu interrupted, his tone flat. Their purpose is clear. Goku's is not. Goku looked up from his meal, catching the tone even without understanding all the words. C-3PO stood nearby, ready to translate. But some conversations needed no language. The tension in the room was palpable. "They're talking about me," he observed to Anakin, who sat beside him on the floor in a breach of protocol that made several masters frown. "The angry one doesn't trust me." "Master Windu isn't angry," Anakin said quietly. "He's cautious. The Jedi have learned to be careful about power, especially power they don't understand. But I'm not asking for anything. I just want to help until I figure out how to get home. That's what worries them. You're too powerful to control, and you don't follow their philosophy. To the Jedi, that's dangerous." Goku considered this while chewing thoughtfully. "Where I come from, there was a god, actually. A few gods who thought the same way. They wanted to destroy planets with low mortal levels because they thought those civilizations were dangerous. Lord Beerus almost destroyed Earth because he got mad about pudding." Anakin blinked. "What?" "My point is, being powerful doesn't make someone dangerous. What matters is what you do with it. Those gods learned that eventually. Well, mostly. Beerus still gets cranky about food." Before Anakin could process that statement, Mace Windu's voice cut through the chamber. "Skywalker, is there something you'd like to share with the Council?" Anakin stood, forcing himself into proper Jedi formality. "Master Windu, with respect, Goku has a point. He's been here 3 days and hasn't shown any signs of aggression unless defending others. His instincts are good, maybe better than ours in some ways." "Explain," Mace commanded. In the Senate, he asked about the clones' right to choose. That's a question we should have asked. On Geonosis, he prioritized saving lives over winning the battle. That's what Jedi are supposed to do, but we've become generals first and peacekeepers second. Anakin's voice gained conviction. Maybe someone outside the Order can see what we've lost. The chamber fell silent. Several masters shifted uncomfortably. Ki-Adi-Mundi's brow ridges furrowed deeply. Plo Koon's masked head tilted in consideration. "Dangerous thinking, this is," Yoda finally said, but his tone was thoughtful rather than dismissive. "Question our role, young Skywalker does. But perhaps necessary. Such questions are." A holographic communicator activated in the chamber's center, and suddenly Supreme Chancellor Palpatine's benevolent features materialized. He looked troubled, grandfatherly concern etched across his face. "Forgive the intrusion, Masters, but I have urgent news. Our intelligence has located a separatist fortress on Mustafar. It appears they're holding several hundred Republic prisoners, civilians mostly, captured during raids. We're planning a rescue operation, but the facility is heavily fortified." Mace Windu stood. "The Council will assign a strike team immediately. Chancellor, I was hoping you might consider including Goku," Palpatine said carefully. "His unique abilities could save lives. However, I leave such tactical decisions to your wisdom." The hologram flickered out, leaving the Council to contemplate. Goku had caught enough of the conversation through C-3PO's translation to understand the basic situation. People trapped, dangerous rescue. They wanted his help. "I'll go," he said simply, standing and brushing crumbs off his gi. "If people are trapped and need help, that's all I need to know. It may be a trap," Obi-Wan warned. "The Separatists know about you now. They could be using prisoners as bait." Goku's expression grew serious. "Then I'll spring the trap and get the people out anyway. That's what you do when someone's in trouble. You help them, even if it's dangerous." Something in his tone made even Mace Windu pause. This wasn't bravado or naivety speaking. This was bedrock principle, tested and proven across battles the Jedi couldn't imagine. Very well, Yoda decided. Go with him. Skywalker and Kenobi will. But Goku, the ancient Jedi's ears drooped seriously. Careful, you must be. Sense you through the Force, we cannot. Protect you in the same way, we cannot. Goku grinned. Don't worry about me, Master Yoda. I've been in way worse situations than this. One time, I fought a guy who could stop time. That was tricky. The Jedi Council had no response to that. Mustafar burned. The volcanic world existed in perpetual fire, its surface a hellscape of lava rivers and ash clouds. The Separatist fortress perched on a black rock outcropping like a tumor, its durasteel walls designed to withstand everything, from orbital bombardment to volcanic eruptions. The Republic gunship descended through the ash-choked atmosphere, its shields flickering from the heat. Inside, Goku pressed his face against the viewport with the fascination of a tourist. It's like Planet Namek after Frieza destroyed it, he observed. Or maybe the hyperbolic time chamber on a bad day. Obi-Wan decided not to ask about any of that. The fortress has anti-air defenses. We'll need to land 2 clicks out and approach on foot. Or, Goku suggested, I could just fly us there directly. You can carry a gunship? Anakin asked incredulously. Sure, it's not that heavy. By my standards anyway. 5 minutes later, the clone pilot was experiencing the single most surreal moment of his military career as his gunship was physically carried through the air by a man in an orange gi, bypassing the defense grid entirely because nothing was designed to detect or target a flying person. They landed on the fortress's landing platform and immediately alarms shrieked. Battle droids poured from every entrance, their optical sensors acquiring targets with mechanical precision. The fortress's commander, a tactical droid designated TX-43, assessed the situation through the security feeds and calculated attack patterns. The calculations became irrelevant approximately 4 seconds later when Goku moved through the droid forces like wind through grass. There has to be at least 500 droids in this facility, Obi-Wan observed, deflecting blaster fire with his lightsaber while advancing with Anakin and the clone squad. 473 now, Anakin corrected, watching another cluster of droids explode from Goku's casual energy blasts. Make that 468. They fought their way deeper into the fortress, the Jedi impressed despite themselves by how Goku's raw combat ability complemented their tactical approach. Where they used precision and force precognition, he used overwhelming speed and power. But he never pressed ahead recklessly, always aware of where the Jedi were, instinctively covering their flanks. He fights like he's used to working with a team, Obi-Wan noted between deflecting blaster bolts. Despite the individualistic approach, he mentioned friends back home, Anakin replied, cutting down a super battle droid. Other fighters, I think he's used to this. They reached the detention level and found the prisoners, 300 Republic civilians, huddled in cells, malnourished and terrified. Clone troopers immediately began evacuation procedures, while Goku tore the cell doors off their hinges with his bare hands. That's when the real trap sprung, blast doors sealed with finality. The fortress's main reactor began overloading, its warning klaxons painting the corridors in red light, and through wall-mounted speakers, a mechanical voice ground out in cold satisfaction. Jedi scum, you have 10 minutes before this facility's reactor detonates with the force of a tactical warhead. The prisoners are fitted with inhibitor collars, attempt to remove them, and they die instantly. The only way to save them is to carry them out manually. But the blast doors are magnetically sealed and reinforced with cortosis weave. Even lightsabers cannot cut through quickly enough. TX-43's tone suggested it was pleased with its calculations. You cannot save them all. Choose which ones live, and know that you failed. Obi-Wan's jaw clenched. Anakin, start cutting through the blast door. Clones, begin carrying prisoners. Wait, Goku said, his expression thoughtful. Did that robot say 10 minutes? Yes, but there's no way to evacuate 300 people through a cortosis-reinforced blast door in that time. Even if we... Goku pressed his hands against the blast door. His aura flared white gold, energy crackling across his form. The durasteel began to groan, rivets popping free as impossibly strong hands found purchase on metal designed to withstand starship impacts. Goku, it's magnetically sealed, Obi-Wan protested. You can't just... The blast door tore free with the sound of screaming metal ripped from its frame and tossed aside like cardboard. Goku looked back at the stunned Jedi and shrugged. Magnets don't work if you're stronger than the magnets. Now let's get these people out of here. The evacuation became a blur of organized chaos. Goku moved between cells, breaking collars with carefully calibrated ki blasts that fried the electronics without harming the prisoners. Clone troopers carried civilians in fireman carries, while Anakin and Obi-Wan provided cover against remaining droids. 5 minutes left. Goku sensed something wrong. Deep in the fortress, in what his ki perception registered as the reactor chamber, there was a presence, not mechanical, organic, and radiating dark energy similar to Dooku's, but different, more raw, more savage. There's someone else here, he told Anakin urgently. Someone strong, in the reactor room. Leave them, Obi-Wan commanded. We need to evacuate. If they're strong, they might be important, Goku insisted. You get everyone out. I'll check. Before they could stop him, he was gone, using his incredible speed to navigate the fortress's corridors in seconds. He burst into the reactor chamber and found his quarry. The cyborg that turned to face him barely resembled anything organic. General Grievous stood hunched over a control console, his 4 mechanical arms hanging like the limbs of a predatory insect. Yellow eyes burned with hatred from a face that was more skull than flesh. So, Grievous rasped, his vocabulator grinding, you're the anomaly, the one who destroyed my malevolence. Goku couldn't understand the words, but the body language was universal. This thing wanted to fight, and unlike the droids, it felt alive. Barely, but alive. You should evacuate, Goku said, knowing his words wouldn't be understood, but hoping the tone would carry. This place is about to explode. Grievous's response was to ignite 4 lightsabers trophies, taken from Jedi he'd killed. The blades spun in a deadly pattern as the cyborg general launched himself forward with mechanical speed that actually impressed Goku. 3 minutes left. The fight was brutally fast. Grievous fought with the accumulated techniques of dozens of Jedi, his mechanical body allowing strike patterns no organic could sustain. The lightsabers carved the air into geometric patterns of death. Goku dodged with minimal movement, his martial arts instincts reading each attack before it completed. You're pretty good, he admitted, even though Grievous couldn't understand. But you're still not as strong as some people I've fought. He caught one of Grievous's lightsaber strikes between his palms, the plasma blade hissing against ki-reinforced skin. The cyborg's yellow eyes widened fractionally, the only surprise his mechanical face could register. Goku twisted, and the lightsaber shattered. 2 minutes left. I don't have time for this, Goku said, his tone apologetic. He placed 2 fingers against Grievous's chest plate and released a controlled ki burst. The cyborg general shot backward, crashing through the reactor room's wall and out into Mustafar's volcanic landscape. Goku turned to the overloading reactor, studying it with the same focused intensity he'd once used to understand the spirit bomb's energy. Machines weren't his specialty, that was Bulma's domain, but energy was energy. 1 minute left. He placed both hands on the reactor core and began channeling ki in reverse, not adding energy, but absorbing it. The technique was dangerous, requiring absolute control to prevent the volatile reactor energy from overwhelming his own life force. but he'd learned energy absorption from Android 19's attacks, understood the principle even if he'd never mastered it completely. 30 seconds. The reactor's warning klaxons fell silent. The overload cycled down. The catastrophic detonation that should have vaporized half a kilometer of Mustafar's surface simply didn't happen. Goku staggered slightly, releasing the reactor core. His hands were smoking, actually burned for the first time since arriving in this galaxy. The reactor energy had been different from Ki, difficult to harmonize with, but he'd managed. He flew back through the fortress and found the Jedi and clones already evacuating the last prisoners. Obi-Wan looked up as Goku landed, taking in the Saiyan's smoking hands and exhausted expression. "The reactor?" he asked. "Fixed? Probably. I mean, it won't explode anymore. You should probably have someone check it properly, though." Anakin stared. "You absorbed a tactical reactor's overload?" "Yeah, it wasn't fun. My hands hurt." Goku looked at his palms ruefully. "That energy was really different from Ki, made my insides feel fizzy. 300 prisoners safely evacuated, 0 casualties. A separatist fortress neutralized and General Grievous temporarily disabled, and Goku was complaining about fizzy insides. Obi-Wan found himself laughing despite the exhaustion. "You're absolutely mad. You know that." Goku grinned, his usual cheer returning. "That's what my wife says too." On Coruscant, in the Chancellor's office, Palpatine received the mission report and allowed himself a moment of genuine frustration. Every scenario he'd calculated, every trap he'd considered, Goku had simply powered through with brute force and instinct. The Sith Lord was running out of conventional options, which meant it was time for unconventional ones. Time to introduce Goku to someone who understood power without force sensitivity, someone whose ambition and pragmatism might resonate where manipulation failed. Time for Goku to meet the one being in the galaxy who'd truly appreciate what he represented, a weapon that couldn't be controlled, only aimed. Darth Sidious smiled coldly and opened a secure channel. "General Grievous has failed. It's time to activate our contingency. Bring me Asajj Ventress." The Jedi Temple's meditation gardens existed as an oasis of tranquility amid Coruscant's urban sprawl. Ancient trees imported from 1,000 worlds grew in carefully maintained harmony, their leaves rustling in artificially generated breezes. It was here, among floating meditation platforms and reflecting pools, that Goku found himself early one morning, attempting something he'd never thought possible: sitting still. "No, no," Yoda said patiently, hobbling around Goku's cross-legged form with his gimmer stick. "Empty your mind. You must. Feel the Force flowing through all things." "But I can't feel the Force," Goku replied through C-3PO's translation. The protocol droid stood nearby, looking deeply uncomfortable at being present for Jedi meditation training. "I can feel Ki life energy, but it's different. Different, perhaps, but similar they may be." Yoda settled onto his own meditation cushion with a contented sigh. "Life energy, you call it. The Force, we name it. 2 words for the same river. Perhaps we speak." Goku closed his eyes, trying to approach meditation the way Master Roshi had taught him decades ago. Empty the mind, feel the flow of energy, sense the living world around you. It was harder here than on Earth. The sheer density of life on Coruscant created a cacophony of key signatures that made focusing difficult, but as he settled deeper, something shifted. He couldn't feel the Force the way Yoda described, that mystical energy binding all things, but he could sense the life around him, the ancient trees with their slow, patient energy, the small creatures living in the garden's undergrowth, even the Jedi meditating on distant platforms, their life forces bright and focused. And beneath it all, like a dark current running counter to the light, he sensed something else. Something cold and patient and vast, watching the galaxy with eyes that saw only pieces to be moved. His eyes snapped open. "There's something wrong," Goku said urgently. Something dark, like Dooku, but bigger, way bigger. It's close, really close. Yoda's ears lifted in alarm. Sense this darkness, you do? Where? I don't know exactly. It's like it's hiding somehow. Wrapped up in so many other energies, I can barely pick it out. But it's there, and it's been watching. Before Yoda could respond, Anakin burst into the meditation garden, his expression troubled. Masters, the Chancellor has requested Goku's presence at the Senate building. He says there's someone important who wants to meet him. Something about Anakin's tone made Goku's Saiyan instincts prickle. The young Jedi seemed uncertain, almost worried. Is that bad? I don't know, Anakin admitted. But the Chancellor has been very interested in you. He asks about you constantly. Your abilities, your philosophy, your plans. He says it's for security purposes, but you don't trust him, Goku finished, reading Anakin's body language easily. I trust him completely, Anakin said, but his voice lacked conviction. He's been like a father to me since I was a child. He's always given me good advice, helped me when the council was too rigid. He paused, struggling with something. But since you arrived, some of his questions feel strange, like he's trying to figure out how to use you for something. Yoda and Goku exchanged glances. The ancient Jedi's expression had grown grave. Go, you should, Yoda decided. But careful, be. Trust your instincts, Goku. Simple your worldview may be, but clear it is. See what we miss. Sometimes you do. The Senate building's private chambers were opulent in a way that made Goku uncomfortable. Everything was polished, expensive, designed to impress. He much preferred the temple's simple meditation rooms, or even the clone barracks, where CC-4477 Squad had adopted him as an unofficial member. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine stood by the viewport, hands clasped behind his back as he gazed out at Coruscant's endless cityscape. He turned as Goku entered, his grandfatherly smile warm and welcoming. Ah, Goku, thank you for coming. I hope the Jedi aren't working you too hard with their meditation exercises. Goku scratched his head sheepishly. Master Yoda's pretty patient, but I'm not great at sitting still. Where I come from, my teachers preferred training that involved more punching. Palpatine chuckled warmly. A practical approach, which brings me to why I asked you here. There's someone I'd like you to meet. Someone who understands power and pragmatism in ways the Jedi sometimes cannot. The door opened, and a woman entered. She was tall, pale-skinned, her head shaved and marked with intricate tattoos. Yellow eyes studied Goku with predatory interest, and even without key sense, he would have recognized another warrior. This woman had killed before, and would do so again without hesitation. But what made his instincts flare wasn't her appearance, it was the energy around her. Dark, angry, powerful. Like Dooku's, but more raw, less refined. Goku, Palpatine said smoothly. This is Asajj Ventress. She was once Count Dooku's apprentice, but she's recently reconsidered her allegiances. She's offered to help the Republic in exchange for amnesty. Ventress circled Goku slowly, her yellow eyes never leaving him. When she spoke, her voice was cold and amused. So you're the primitive who destroyed the malevolence and captured my former master. I expected someone more impressive. C-3PO translated nervously, but Goku barely needed it. The disdain in her tone was universal. I'm not trying to be impressive, he replied through the droid. I just help people who need it. How noble, Ventress said mockingly. She ignited her twin lightsabers, curved red blades that painted her pale face in crimson light. But nobility means nothing without strength to back it. Perhaps we should test if you're truly as powerful as the rumors suggest. Miss Ventress, I don't think, C-3PO began. It's okay, Goku interrupted, standing and slipping into a ready stance. His expression had shifted from friendly to focused. If she wants to spar, I'm fine with that. I haven't had a good workout in days. Palpatine watched from his position by the viewport, his face showing concern while Darth Sidious's mind worked behind it. Ventress was expendable, a failed apprentice whose dark side abilities made her useful, but whose lack of control made her predictable. If she managed to push Goku to draw out more of his power, Sidious would learn. If she failed, he would learn differently. Either way, valuable data would be acquired. Ventress struck without warning, her lightsabers spinning in the aggressive patterns of Form 7. She was fast, genuinely fast, her dark side enhanced speed pushing her beyond normal human limits. The red blades carved through space where Goku had been standing. Goku weaved between strikes, hands clasped behind his back, his expression thoughtful. "You're faster than Dooku," he observed, "but your technique isn't as refined. You're angry, it makes you powerful but predictable. Analyze me later," Ventress snarled, pressing the attack. "After I've carved that smug grin off your face." She channeled the dark side fully, her yellow eyes blazing as she drew on rage and pain that had defined her existence. Her lightsabers moved in impossible patterns, striking from angles that should have been impossible. She was good better than most Jedi, trained by a Sith Lord to kill. It wasn't enough. Goku caught both lightsaber blades between his palms, stopping her assault completely. Ventress poured more dark side energy into her strikes, trying to force the plasma through his defense. The sabers hissed and sparked against his ki-reinforced skin. "You're strong," Goku said seriously, looking her in the eyes. "But you're hurt. I can sense it all, this anger you're using as power. It's actually holding you back. Someone taught you to fight this way, and it's making you weaker, not stronger." Ventress's eyes widened. For a moment, something flickered beneath the rage. Pain, loss, the ghost of who she'd been before darkness consumed her. Then, her training reasserted itself. "You know nothing about me." She released her lightsabers and thrust both hands forward, dark side energy erupting in a wave of force lightning. Goku grunted as the electricity hit him, his muscles tensing. It hurt more than he'd expected. Dark side lightning carried something beyond just electrical charge. It carried malice, suffering, pain weaponized into energy. He gritted his teeth and walked forward through it. "This power," he said, his voice strained but determined. "It's eating you alive. I've met people like you. Vegeta was like this once. So angry, so focused on revenge, that he couldn't see what he was becoming." He reached through the lightning and placed one hand gently on Ventress's shoulder, not attacking, just touching. His ki flowed out instinctively, not trying to change her, just offering warmth against the cold darkness she'd wrapped herself in. Ventress's force lightning sputtered and died. She stared at Goku with an expression caught between fury and something that might have been longing. "What are you?" she whispered. "Just someone who thinks you deserve better than being this angry all the time." Palpatine had been watching carefully, and now his concern deepened, not grandfatherly worry, but cold Sith calculation. Goku wasn't trying to fight darkness with light. He was simply offering an alternative through genuine compassion, unfiltered by Jedi dogma or Sith manipulation. That made him more dangerous than any Force user. "Perhaps that's enough for today," Palpatine interjected smoothly. "Miss Ventress, thank you for the demonstration." "Goku, you've proven once again that your abilities are extraordinary." Ventress deactivated her lightsabers mechanically, still staring at Goku with confusion. The Saiyan had done something no Jedi ever managed. He'd seen past her darkness without judgment or fear, just simple acknowledgement that she could choose differently. It shook her in ways combat never had. "Chancellor," Anakin's voice came from the doorway. The young Jedi entered, flanked by Obi-Wan and Mace Windu. Their expressions were grave. "We need to speak with you privately," It's about Count Dooku's interrogation. Palpatine's mask never slipped, but Sidious's mind raced. Had the fool broken? Said something that pointed toward the grand plan? Of course, Masters. Goku, would you excuse us? Goku nodded, but something about the entire situation made his instincts itch. The dark presence he'd sensed in meditation felt closer now, more focused, and the way everyone in this room carried tension in their shoulders. He activated instant transmission, placing his fingers on his forehead, but instead of leaving, he teleported just outside the door, pressing his enhanced hearing against it. Eavesdropping wasn't honorable, but something felt very wrong. Inside, Mace Windu's voice was cold with anger. Chancellor, Dooku has made extraordinary claims. He insists that you're actually Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord orchestrating both sides of this war. Silence fell. Goku held his breath, every sense focused. That's preposterous, Palpatine said, his voice heavy with hurt. Masters, you've known me for years. Does this sound like the action of a desperate man trying to sow discord? That's what we thought, Obi-Wan said carefully. But he's provided details, conversations, plans, things that only someone with deep knowledge would know. We need to investigate. Of course, Palpatine agreed immediately, sounding relieved. Investigate thoroughly. I welcome it. The truth will prove my innocence. But Goku, with his ability to sense ki and life energy, felt something the Jedi couldn't through their force-dependent perception. He felt Palpatine's energy signature shift just for a moment into something dark and vast and terrible. The same presence he'd sensed in meditation, now revealed for a heartbeat before hiding again. The Chancellor was the dark thing he'd been sensing all along. Goku's eyes widened. Suddenly, everything made sense, the war that neither side could win. The way Palpatine always knew where to send them, how Dooku and the Separatists fought just hard enough to be dangerous, but never hard enough to actually win. It was all one person playing both sides. The door opened suddenly, and Palpatine stood there, his expression friendly concern. But his eyes, for just a moment, they locked with Goku's, and the Saiyan saw the truth reflected there. Palpatine knew that Goku knew. Ah, still here? The Chancellor said warmly. I thought you'd left. Just waiting, Goku replied, his tone carefully neutral. Wanted to make sure everything was okay. Everything is fine. The Jedi are simply being thorough as they should be. Palpatine smiled, that grandfatherly smile, but there was something else beneath it now. A challenge, a warning. Walk with me, Goku. I'd like to show you something. Every instinct screamed at Goku to refuse, to call the Jedi, to do something. But he was curious now, curious what this dark presence would do when confronted, what game it was playing. He followed Palpatine to a private balcony overlooking Coruscant's endless cityscape. They stood in silence for a moment, watching billions of lives playing out across the planet-spanning city. You know, Palpatine said quietly, all pretense of warmth gone from his voice. You're not from this galaxy. You don't understand our complexity, our history. The Jedi have grown complacent. The Republic is collapsing under its own bureaucracy. Sometimes, terrible actions are necessary to prevent worse catastrophes. You started this war, Goku said simply. You're playing both sides. How many people have died because of your game? Millions, Palpatine admitted without hesitation, and millions more would have died in the chaos of the Republic's natural collapse. I'm bringing order, Goku. Purpose, a galaxy united under one strong vision, instead of fractured by endless debate and corruption, by lying, by manipulating everyone, by doing what must be done. Palpatine turned, and for the first time, Goku saw him without the mask. Ancient yellow eyes burning with Sith power, a face marked by darkness. You're powerful, but you're a child playing at philosophy. The strong rule. That's reality. Everything else is sentiment. Where I come from, Goku said quietly, I've met people like you. Frieza thought he should rule because he was strongest. Cell thought he was perfect. Majin Buu destroyed because it was fun. They all had one thing in common. What's that? I beat them. Because being strong isn't the same as being right. Palpatine laughed, genuine, unfiltered amusement. And what will you do, warrior? Kill me? The Jedi won't believe you without proof. Kill a Supreme Chancellor based on your feelings, and you'll become a fugitive. And if you somehow succeed, the Republic will tear itself apart. I've spent decades weaving myself into every system. Removing me now would collapse everything. Goku was silent because he recognized the terrible truth in those words. This wasn't like fighting Frieza or Cell. This wasn't a problem he could solve with a Kamehameha wave. So here's my offer, Palpatine continued, his yellow eyes gleaming. Leave. Go home. Find your King Kai. I'll even help you. My resources can research dimensional travel far better than the Jedi's limited archives. In exchange, you forget what you've learned here. Let the galaxy sort itself out. And if I refuse, then I'll orchestrate situations where your power causes collateral damage. I'll make you into a threat that even the Jedi must eliminate. I'll use your friends that young Skywalker is so easy to manipulate against you. I'll make staying here so painful that you'll wish you'd taken my offer. Palpatine's smile was cold, calculated. Or you can fight me now, kill me, and watch this galaxy burn. Your choice, Son Goku. The Saiyan stood on the balcony, the weight of an entire galaxy's fate suddenly pressing down on his shoulders. For the first time since arriving in this strange place, he genuinely didn't know what to do. Fighting strong opponents was easy. Protecting people was instinct. But this required wisdom he wasn't sure he possessed. And Darth Sidious watched, confident that no matter what choice Goku made, the Sith Lord would find a way to turn it to his advantage. Because that's what Sith Lords did. The balcony fell silent save for the distant hum of Coruscant's endless traffic. Goku stood motionless, his mind racing through possibilities in a way it rarely did. This wasn't a straightforward battle against evil, this was complexity he'd never trained for. Politics and manipulation that existed beyond the reach of martial arts. He thought of Master Roshi's lessons about wisdom tempering strength. He thought of King Kai's warnings about consequences. He thought of Whis explaining that true power meant knowing when not to fight. Finally, he spoke. You're wrong about one thing, Goku said, meeting Palpatine's yellow eyes without flinching. You think I'm a child who only knows how to punch things. Maybe that's true, but I've learned something from all my battles. The strongest person doesn't win by being the only one standing. They win by making everyone around them stronger. He turned away from the balcony, from the trap Palpatine had laid so carefully. I'm not going to fight you. Not yet. And I'm not going to run away either. I'm going to do what I always do, help people, protect my friends, and get stronger. And while I do that, I'm going to trust that there are people here smarter than me who can figure out how to stop you the right way. Palpatine's expression darkened. You're choosing to be naive. Maybe, but I'd rather be naive and good than smart and evil. Goku started walking toward the door, then paused. Oh, and one more thing, you can threaten me all you want, but the moment you actually hurt my friends, all those complicated plans won't matter, because I'll find you and I'll stop you. That's a promise. The Saiyan's aura flared briefly, not threatening, just honest. A glimpse of the true power he'd been holding back, the transformations and techniques he hadn't needed yet. Super Saiyan God, Ultra Instinct, powers this galaxy had never conceived of. For the first time, Darth Sidious felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Genuine uncertainty about his ability to control the board. 3 weeks later, the Jedi Council gathered once more. Goku sat among them now, not as a member, but as an honored guest. His investigation into Palpatine had yielded no concrete proof, but seeds of doubt had been planted. "Master Yoda," Goku said through C-3PO's translation, "I still can't sense the Force like you do. But I can sense that dark presence is getting stronger. Whatever happens, you need to watch the Chancellor carefully. Heeded, your warning is," Yoda replied gravely. "Investigate, we will. But carefully powerful this darkness is." Anakin approached after the council meeting ended, his expression troubled. "Goku, I've been thinking about what you said about the clones choosing, about power being used to protect rather than control. It's not how the Jedi taught me, but it feels right somehow." "Your teachers aren't wrong," Goku said carefully. "They're just scared. Scared of what happens when good people have too much power. But being scared of power means you never learn to use it properly. You need balance, strength, and wisdom together." It was the most philosophical thing he'd said since arriving, and Anakin could see the years of experience behind those simple words. Goku had clearly struggled with these same questions across battles the Jedi couldn't imagine. "Will you stay?" Anakin asked. "Help us? The Republic needs." "I can't stay forever," Goku interrupted gently. "I have my own galaxy, my own family, my friends. But until I find a way home, I'll help however I can, and maybe—" He grinned that trademark smile. "Maybe I'll teach you some martial arts. Your lightsaber stuff is cool, but you'd be even better with proper hand-to-hand training." Anakin found himself grinning back. "I'd like that." That night, Goku stood alone on the temple's highest spire, looking up at the unfamiliar stars. He pressed 2 fingers to his forehead and tried once more to sense King Kai's energy signature across dimensions. Still, nothing whatever had brought him here had severed that connection completely. But he could sense other things. The clone troopers learning to see themselves as individuals rather than just soldiers. The Jedi beginning to question their role in the war. Even Ventress, who'd sought him out twice more, each time a little less dark, a little more uncertain about the path she'd chosen. Maybe he couldn't punch his way out of this situation. Maybe he couldn't solve everything with a Kamehameha wave, but he could do what he'd always done, be himself, help people, and trust that good intentions backed by genuine strength would make a difference. The Force might not flow through him, but something else did. The same warrior's spirit that had protected Earth countless times, that had brought gods and monsters to their knees through sheer determination and an unbreakable will to protect others. Darth Sidious's plans were vast and intricate, woven through decades of careful manipulation. But those plans had never accounted for something completely outside the galaxy's rules. A Saiyan warrior who fought not for glory or power, but simply because someone needed to. The Clone Wars had begun. The galaxy stood at a precipice, with darkness rising and light dimming. But now there was something new in the equation, an unknown variable that couldn't be predicted, controlled, or broken. Son Goku had arrived in the Star Wars galaxy by accident, but perhaps the Force or fate, or whatever cosmic power governed such things, had known exactly what it was doing. Because sometimes, the galaxy far, far away needed to be reminded that true strength came not from manipulation or mystical energy, but from the simple, unshakable conviction that protecting others was worth any cost. The Saiyan smiled at the unfamiliar stars and cracked his knuckles. Tomorrow he'd train with Anakin, check on Rex and the clone squad, and maybe finally try some of that weird blue milk everyone kept offering him. Tonight, he simply stood watch over a galaxy that didn't know how badly it needed him, but it would learn. And when the true darkness finally emerged from shadows, when Palpatine made his final move and the Jedi faced their greatest trial, Goku would be ready, not as a Jedi, not as a soldier of the Republic, but as a warrior who'd cross dimensions to do what he'd always done: protect the innocent, challenge the strong, and prove that sometimes The simplest answer, standing up and fighting for what's right, was the most powerful one of all. In the Senate building's darkest chamber, Darth Sidious stared at holographic projections of Goku's battles, analyzing every movement and technique. The Sith Lord's plans would need adjustment, contingencies within contingencies, but he was nothing if not patient. "You think you've disrupted my design?" Sidious whispered to the empty room. "But I've orchestrated the fall of Jedi and the rise of empires. I've turned the galaxy's greatest heroes into my weapons, and I will find your weakness, Scion. Everyone has one." The hologram shifted to show Anakin laughing during training with Goku, the two warriors moving through combat forms with genuine camaraderie. Sidious smiled coldly. "Everyone has one," but high above, on the temple's spire, Goku sensed that malevolent attention and simply smiled back at the distant darkness. He'd faced gods and monsters. He'd died and come back stronger. He'd protected his world against impossible odds. One evil chancellor manipulating a war. That was just Tuesday. Let the Sith scheme. Let the darkness gather. When the time came, when everything Palpatine had built came crashing down toward its terrible conclusion, there would be one variable the Sith Lord couldn't account for. Someone who'd crossed dimensions, shattered expectations, and reminded an entire galaxy what true heroism looked like. The legend of the warrior in the orange gi had only just begun. Is greater than is, greater than is, greater than. May the Force be with you. More stories await.